Introduction to the Spy Sea-Tide Student. In the era of war, Yang Denghuan came to Beiping and became a small police officer in the Second Investigation Department of the Beiping Police Bureau. With the rise of wind and clouds, the Spy Sea-Tide Student emerged. Detective+espionage, suspense+brain burning, tell you a wonderful story. 1. Little Police Officer. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In 1936. Beiping. Yang Denghuan sat in the office of the Second Investigation Department of the police station, looking at his busy colleagues and feeling lost in his heart. It has been 3 months in this world, but Yang Denghuan still has no habit at all. The days without phones and computers are too difficult to endure. But that's okay, the key is not even grilled skewers, which is very distressing. I just watched a spy war drama, and I roast, this is too fake. I'm better than him. As a result, when I woke up, I actually wore on to the years of war and became a small police officer who had only been working for a month at the Second Investigation Department of the Beiping Police Bureau. It's really, watching a play is risky, roast needs to be careful. It snowed all night last night, and looking through the window, it was covered in silver. This city made him familiar and unfamiliar, familiar with the 49 cities in 100 years, rather than the present-day Beiping city. In 3 months, Yang Denghuan almost traveled all the corners of Beiping city and tried countless ways to return to his familiar world, but to no avail. Yang Denghuan even thought that if he committed suicide, could he go back to the future? In the end, Yang Denghuan finally gave up this idea. Let's just forget it. What if we can't go back? According to current medical technology, even if the 4 famous doctors gather together, it is estimated that they will not be able to save their lives. Is your future girlfriend who looks like a young model okay now? She must be very happy living with her wealthy godfather, right? Thinking of this, Yang Denghuan couldn't help feeling disheartened. What are you going back for? Others can't even come to buy tickets. If I could live longer, maybe I could become a grandpa as a young model later on. Thinking of this, Yang Denghuan burst into a bitter smile. There were clear bursts of gunfire coming from outside, and Yang Denghuan sighed. The little devils outside Wanping City were acting like demons again, conducting some exercises. In recent days, the little devils have been practicing more and more frequently, almost every 10.5 days, they come here once or twice. Yang Denghuan glanced around and noticed that his colleagues seemed to have become accustomed to what they should do, without anyone deliberately paying attention. The office was noisy and lively, looking like a tavern or a tea house, but not like an office space. The detective team members were divided into 3 groups, each busy. One group was playing poker, one group was pushing pai gao, and the other group was playing mahjong with 2 desks together. These people are so reckless not because Director Shen Yan is not in the office, but because they have become accustomed to it. Nowadays, people are in a state of panic. Those who have money and power have long exchanged their assets for gold and left this dangerous city. What else can they do without playing cards? It's already great to be able to come to work at this time, what are the requirements? Denghuan, what are you thinking? Don't think of anything I want to say. Thinking too much is just illness. Xiao Wuda, with a tall and large figure, a Chinese-style face, thick eyebrows and big eyes, dressed in a semi-old suit, walked over and spread an old newspaper on his desk in front of Yang Denghuan, revealing peanuts inside. Xiao Wuda is the leader of a team of 3 groups and one of the few non-card detective team members in the office. He has a straightforward personality and a good relationship with Yang Denghuan. Peanuts, where did they come from? Yang Denghuan asked casually when Xiao Wuda came over. I just ran into a half-sold cellar at the entrance of the bureau and bought some, Xiao Wuda smiled. Did you give me money? Yang Denghuan picked up one and said as he peeled off the skin. I actually want to give it, he dares to take it, Xiao Wuda said casually. That's right, I've never heard of us police officers spending money on things, said a person in the pai gao pile with a face full of flesh, triangular eyes, and a very fierce face. Where do you score? If you go to Badaxiang and don't spend money pulling 2 feet of cloth, I'll call you grandpa, said another skinny detective, who looked like a thin monkey. Aren't you raising the bar, kid? Triangle Eye said unhappily. It's time to argue with you too. You've been sitting on the estate all morning, and I haven't even made a fuss. If I don't argue, it's okay. You treat me at noon, said the skinny guy. All right. Wang Ji braised, it's close to us, and the taste is also good. I'll treat you to a big bowl at noon, each person. Triangle Eyes exclaimed boldly. Isn't that bullshit? Wang Ji's braised soup still costs you money. Let's go eat. Does old Wang dare to ask for money? You really want to treat us? Let's go to the 8 great houses. The skinny guy once again gave his triangular eyes to the army. 8 great houses. I won't treat you to 6 by houses either. How much does it cost to have a meal? Together, I've been busy with you all morning. Triangle Eye's words caused a burst of laughter. With a loud bang, the door was knocked open and a uniformed police officer rushed in, shouting loudly, "What's going on in your 2 departments? You've made a few phone calls but no one answered." Everyone looked and saw that the person coming was Director Liao from the police station's switchboard room, all looking at him with triangular eyes. Triangle Eye was taken aback for a moment, clutching Pai Gao in his hand and asking in confusion, "I said a few of you, did the phone ring?" Everyone looked at the phone in confusion and said, "No, I didn't hear the phone ring." Director Liao was also taken aback when he heard this. He walked over hesitantly, lowered his head and pulled the wire to find the cause. After a few attempts, he pulled the wire up and suddenly became angry. He shouted loudly, "The NEMA wire has been pulled, where is it going?" Triangular Eye suddenly realized, and slapped his head with force. He said in embarrassment, "Ouch, Director Liao, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. This phone was not disconnected this morning, and all his mother numbers were wrong. One of them even called out a note. I said, I'm going to take it. But I was so angry that I pulled the phone line. Look at this. You can find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com without delay. Captain Qian, where is your director?" Director Liao glanced around but didn't see Director Shen Yan, who asked with a triangular eye. Triangle Eye is the captain of a team, Qian Rufa. The skinny guy who just challenged him was Team Deputy Li Jiaohui, nicknamed Thin Monkey. Almost all of them were from the first team, guarding the Pai Gao promotion next to them. I haven't seen you yet. You said I'm a subordinate and keeps asking about the boss's affairs, isn't it appropriate? Qian Rufa said with a playful smile. The inner second sub-bureau called, a murder case has occurred in Liujiao Hutong. Hurry up and send someone to the scene. Director Yu had already lost his temper just now. Director Liao didn't wait for Qian Ru to speak before turning around and saying loudly as he was about to leave, plug in the phone line. Let me go again, and all the benefits for your 2 offices this month will be gone. Qian Rufa turned his head and looked at the other 2 groups of people. Playing cards, playing cards. It's your turn, why are you so stunned? You've been blindly involved in the affairs of the team. Qian Rufa looked around helplessly and saw Qiao Wuda. His eyes lit up and he loudly said, Old Qiao, it's you. Take your team out of the scene. Is there anyone else in my group? Qiao Wuda smiled. Qian Rufa was taken aback for a moment, then understood. He glanced around and saw that the few members of Qiao Wuda's group were all by his side. Qian Rufa was in a difficult situation for a while, and his luck was strong. At this time, he couldn't scatter the stall, but someone had to go to the scene. In the blink of an eye, he saw Yang Denghuan and immediately had an idea. He shouted, just take Yang Denghuan with you. They've only been here for 2 months, okay? Why not? I went to the execution ground on duty the first day of work. What's the point? Qian Rufa said nonchalantly. 2 on site. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The black police car roared out of the Beiping Police Station, rolling up countless storms and snow. Xiao Wuda, who was avoiding the side, moved his bicycle back and muttered, "Damn it, this thick snow is driving so fast, and I'm not afraid of hitting a power pole. It's okay to hit you all. If the power stops, it'll be troublesome. Why can't we also have a police car?" Yang Denghuan said behind Xiao Wuda. "Want a bike? You're so beautiful. Having a bike would be great. Thanks to me coming with you, otherwise you wouldn't even have a bike." Xiao Wuda got on the bike and said to Yang Denghuan, "Hurry up." Reluctantly, Yang Denghuan got on his bicycle, while Xiao Wuda pedaled his bike crookedly out of the police station, turned onto Naiwafu Street and rode towards Liujiao Hutong on Qianmen Street. Liujiao Hutong. Xiao Wuda and Yang Denghuan set up their bicycles at the entrance of the alley and walked into it. There are many alleys in the 4 or 9 cities, and there is a saying that 306 large alleys compete with cattle and fur in small alleys. Hutong belongs to Mongolian, meaning street. Most of the hutongs in Beiping City are narrow, but Liujiao Hutong is very wide, at least able to accommodate 2 rickshaws passing by. Entering the alley, the two of them saw a large courtyard surrounded by many people. A long rope was pulled in front and behind the courtyard, and several patrolmen were maintaining order. A crooked hat wearing a wrinkled police uniform, very inappropriate, with a half cigarette butt in his mouth and a baton inserted in the collar at the back of his neck. The patrol officer, who came from anywhere, was scolding the surrounding residents. "It's not that we don't want you to pass by, we're dealing with a case. What if you've done this and destroyed the scene? If you should go around once, it won't take much time. I tell you, don't get tired of me here and make me angry. I know you." As he spoke, he pointed to the baton behind his neck and said, "I know you, but I don't know you with this baton." Xiao Wuda wanted to laugh when he saw these 2 dumbfounded police officers, and quickly walked over with Yang Denghuan to squeeze into the crowd, lifting the rope and about to enter. Yang Denghuan and Xiao Wuda were both dressed in casual clothes, no different from ordinary people. A police officer wanted to stop them when he saw the situation. Xiao Wuda called out to the blasphemous police officer inside, "Luo-san, hurry up. The market has risen. We can all talk now." The police officer turned around and caught a glimpse of Xiao Wuda. He quickly smiled and said, "Oh, Captain Xiao, have you come in person? Luo Sanquai." Yang Deng smiled happily, the name was a bit interesting. "They praised me for being quick with hands, quick with eyes, and quick with legs, so they gave me the nickname Luo Sanquai." Although Luo Sanquai didn't know Yang Denghuan, since he came with Xiao Wuda, he must be a detective from Detective Department 2, and his humble attitude is definitely right. "How did I hear that you were quick to collect money, quick to slip away, and also quite quick to do that, such a quick Luo Sanquai?" Xiao Wuda laughed at Cairo Sanquai's joke. Yang Denghuan took advantage of the 2 people's poor mouths and looked around the environment, gradually pulling a smile between his lips. For some reason, since his travels, Yang Denghuan has a particularly keen eye. He can easily see clues that most people don't see, and his brain seems to have become smarter. Often, some details fall into Yang Denghuan's eyes, and he immediately produces corresponding reasoning answers. Sometimes even Yang Denghuan can't figure out what the reason is. Are these the buffs of the walkers? Luo Sanquai is quite capable, and the on-site protection is very good, even there are no extra footprints on the ground. It snowed almost all night yesterday and didn't stop until 3 or 4 in the morning, leaving many marks on the snow. This is a quadrangle courtyard with 5 steps, a high threshold, and carved stone drums on both sides of the door, all displaying the former glory of the owner. It is obvious that the courtyard has now become dilapidated, and the quadrangle has also become a large courtyard. The red painted door has been chipped off, and if not carefully examined, the original color cannot be seen. The screen wall facing the door has also been demolished by the residents of the courtyard due to obstruction. On the west side of the courtyard wall, there are several ruts, deep or shallow. In front of the ruts, there is a messy patch of horseshoe prints. Yang Denghuan walked over to take a closer look, and the snow was so thick that he could even see the prints on horseshoes clearly. After seeing the footprints of horse hooves on the ground, Yang Denghuan looked back at the dilapidated courtyard wall, which was covered in scars, revealing the vicissitudes of time. Following the hoof prints, Yang Denghuan looked forward and saw 2 rows of footprints extending from the west side of the courtyard wall all the way to the courtyard. Yang Denghuan followed his footsteps and entered the courtyard. There were still a few police officers in the yard, pulling a long rope with yellow cloth strips to stop the residents from leaving. In the second room on the south side, there were police officers entering and exiting from time to time. No need to ask, this is the scene of the murder. Entering the room, the furnishings were simple, with 1 table and 1 kong, and no other furniture. The table is against the wall, with the body lying on it, 1 hand at the desk and the other hand limply beside the body. The face is crooked and facing the door, with a frightened expression on its face. The deceased was dressed in a brand new blue robe, wearing a pair of new leather shoes with the letters H.S. printed on the upper. A lamp on the table has run out of oil and dried up. A few plates of wine and vegetables, 2 wine glasses, scattered with a lot of cigarette ash, but no cigarette butts were seen. Due to the snow last night, there were many shoe prints left on the floor, which were intricate and intertwined, making it difficult to distinguish. Several police officers were busy inside the room, some drawing pictures and some collecting evidence. A middle-aged man of medium stature, wearing a top hat and a black windbreaker, stood in the corner holding a cigarette. As soon as Qiao Wuda entered the door, he saw the middle-aged man first and quickly greeted him with a smile. "Director Qin, have you come in person?" Director Qin was pondering when he suddenly heard someone speaking. He looked up and saw that it was Qiao Wuda. He also greeted with a smile and said, "Old Qiao, why are you? Where is old Qian? Our captain is busy." Qiao Wuda smiled. "Busy up? I don't know him yet." Qin, the head of the department, didn't agree. "Can I go and take a look?" Yang Denghuan asked softly. Go. Just don't mess up, maybe the forensic doctor hasn't arrived yet," Qiao Wuda said with a smile. "No. These masters are all like Zhuge Liang. It's difficult to invite them." Director Qin sneered and said. Yang Denghuan first circled around the room, carefully examined the footprints on the ground, and then walked towards the table. He picked up the wine glass and gently sniffed it, quietly putting it down. Then he pulled up the deceased's right hand hanging by his side, and the long-sleeved shirt slipped off, revealing the snow-white shirt cuffs inside. Yang Denghuan smiled lightly at the corner of her mouth and lowered the victim's right hand. "Who knows who the deceased is?" Qiao Wuda asked Director Qin over there. "I don't know. I'll tell you about this case later, it's full of that evil spirit." Director Qin handed Qiao Wuda a cigarette and lit another one for himself. "Although I don't know who the deceased was, I do know who the killer was," Yang Denghuan suddenly said. Qiao Wuda and Director Qin were both stunned, their eyes coincidentally looking at Yang Denghuan. 3. Inference. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Are you talking about the horse puller? Young man, new here. Solving a case is not that easy. Only by watching more and speaking less can we make progress. Qin, the head of the department, was taken aback for a moment, then looked at Yang Denghuan disdainfully and said in a tone of warning. Director Qin has a good eye, he's just a newcomer who doesn't understand the rules. Don't be too narrow-minded with him, Qiao Wuda quickly said. Director Qin said these words. I believe he also observed the imprint of the carriage at the door. If he couldn't even see this, it would be too boring. It looks a bit real now. The culprit was the coachman, and the deceased died of poisoning. If I'm not mistaken, the poisoned wine on the table was forced by the coachman to drink it. At this point, Yang Denghuan smiled and looked at the surprised eyes of Qiao Wuda and Director Qin. He then said, "Let's talk about this coachman. He is about 1.75 to 1.78 meters tall, strong, slightly lame in his left foot, and a left-handed person with a strong smoking habit. By the way, the car light on the right side of his carriage is broken, and the horse driving the car has a new paw. With all of this, isn't it more detailed?" Yang Denghuan ignored Director Qin's sarcasm, as if speaking to himself slowly. Director Qin's eyes immediately widened, not believing that Yang Denghuan could see so many details. Regarding the height of this horse puller, Director Qin has also calculated that it is approximately 1.7 meters or more, less than 1.8 meters. But how did he speculate about this newly hired police officer? Why are you so much more precise than yourself? You should know that when it comes to troubleshooting, every time there is less data, the scope will narrow down a bit, which not only saves effort, but also saves time. Director Qin turned his head to look at Qiao Wuda, hoping to find the answer from him. However, he found that Qiao Wuda's expression was even more unbelievable than his own, and he exaggerated his mouth. "Old Qiao, what's his name?" "What? What's so happy about?" Yang Denghuan said calmly and softly. "How did you tell if it was true or false?" Qin, the head of the department, stopped asking Qiao Wuda and asked directly when Yang Denghuan answered. But in his eyes, besides surprise, there was more disbelief. "It's very simple, there's nothing strange," Yang Denghuan pouted and continued. "First of all, why is it said that the culprit is the coachman? I'm sure the two of you have also seen this. There was a carriage parked next to the mountain wall outside last night. How are you sure that carriage has stopped? Maybe it just passed by without stopping." Qin, the chief, squinted his eyes and asked. "The messy horse hoof prints on the ground. If the carriage only passed by here without stopping, how could there be so many messy horse hoof prints? Obviously, last night the carriage driver parked the carriage under the mountain wall and then entered the yard with the deceased." Yang Denghuan spoke confidently. "Then it can't be the carriage used by other families in this courtyard. Why must it be the two of them?" Qiao Wuda also asked in confusion. "Apart from these two track marks, no other trace was found, which means that everyone did not go out. It is understandable that it snowed heavily yesterday. So it must be these two who left the footprints. In addition." Speaking of this, Yang Denghuan smiled slightly, pointed to the footprints on the ground and said, "You can identify the footprints inside the house and those outside the hospital, a pair of hemp shoes and a pair of leather shoes. Now the leather shoes are on the feet of the dead. The driver who left must be the coachman. What about height? How did you tell? 6 times the length of a normal person's foot is equivalent to height, can I tell you that?" Yang Denghuan muttered, but said, "This person has a large stride. I have come to the conclusion based on both stride and foot length. What kind of limping, heavy smoking, left-handed, broken car lights, and so on. Where did you tell that?" Qin, the chief of the department, asked urgently. "This is even simpler. The footprints on both sides of the coachman are uneven in depth, and the footprints on the left are slightly shallow, indicating that the coachman's left foot is slightly lame. The reason why it can be seen that the coachman is left-handed is because the deceased's right arm has bruises, obviously caught by the coachman with his left hand. Normal people attack with their right hand, but if they use their left hand, it is likely that they are left-handed. The coachman is likely to use their left hand to grab the deceased's right arm, forcing the deceased to drink poisoned wine." Yang Denghuan's expression remained calm, as if these findings were extremely normal. "Are you addicted to smoking? How can you tell that the killer is addicted to smoking?" Director Qin frowned and asked. "The table was filled with cigarette ash, and when I looked at the victim's left hand just now, there was no burnt yellow. Obviously, the victim did not smoke or had a low smoking habit. Being able to smoke so much in a short period of time is enough to show that the perpetrator had a great smoking addiction. How do you know that the killer stayed here for a short time? Asked Xiao Wuda this time. The food and drinks on the table remained almost untouched, so I concluded that the culprit did not stay here for long. Car lights. There are also car lights. Why do you say that the right side car light of the carriage is broken? Director Qin asked repeatedly, feeling very excited. On the mountain wall outside, where the carriage was parked last night, there is a new scratch. If it weren't for the broken light on the right side of the carriage and poor lighting, how could the coachman have rubbed the carriage against the wall? Yang Deng said with a cheerful smile. How did you tell that the deceased was poisoned? And was he forced to drink poisoned wine by the killer? Xiao Wuda made it clear that he was about to break the clay pot and asked to the end. You can tell from the expression on the deceased's feet. As for poisoning. Yang Denghuan pointed to the glass on the table and continued, I just smelled it. It tasted slightly sour, with the smell of scopolamine. When did you understand so much? Xiao Wuda asked in surprise. I have always been a good student. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, Yang Denghuan chuckled and said. Brilliant. Amazing. It's reasonable and perfectly fitting. It seems that the culprit is the coachman. After saying these words, Chief Qin's face showed a resolute expression, frowning as if he was muttering to himself, although there are many coachmans in Beiping City, with so many clues, even if we dig 3 feet deep, we still have to dig out this kid. This is a credit. After Director Qin finished speaking, he turned around and went out. Xiao Wuda was taken aback and quickly said, Old Qin. There's no one like you. This is the case we solved. What should we do? That's right, I'll go catch the killer now. Chief Qin exclaimed proudly. Upon hearing this, Xiao Wuda anxiously grabbed onto Chief Qin's arm. Director Qin flashed and quickly walked out. Xiao Wuda quickly chased after him, and a forensic doctor in a white coat walked in. The two of them suddenly bumped into each other. Slow down. What are you doing? What are you doing? Said the forensic dissatisfied. What's so slow? You're in a hurry to catch the culprit. Xiao Wuda was even more upset. It was Yang Denghuan who had deduced who the culprit was. If Chief Qin had taken the lead, it would have been a huge loss. What culprit are we catching? I haven't had an autopsy yet, the forensic doctor exclaimed loudly. Xiao Wuda ignored the forensic doctor and turned to Yang Denghuan with dissatisfaction, saying, You said you too. Why did you say so much just now? If it were taken over by Director Qin, all the credit would be gone. No, let's specify that it's faster than Chief Qin and his team. With so many carriage drivers in Beiping City, it's enough time for Chief Qin to investigate for a while. Let's go directly to Chongwen Gate, Yang Deng chuckled. Chongwen Gate. What are you doing there for? Xiao Wuda asked for a moment. Yesterday's carriage was a foreign carriage, Yang Denghuan said proudly. Xiao Wuda's eyes couldn't help but brighten upon hearing it. For falling into the net. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Wuda vigorously pedaled his bicycle while chattering excitedly, implying nothing more than how much reward he would receive for this meritorious service, and perhaps even an additional flower on his shoulder. On the back shelf, Yang Denghuan kept thinking about the problem with each sound. Finally, Xiao Wuda, who had been muttering to himself for a long time, realized that Yang Denghuan had not spoken for half a day. He still spoke excitedly and asked, What are you thinking? Why do you look like you're holding your tongue? I'm thinking who this deceased person is. How could he have died here? Yang Denghuan seemed to be muttering to himself and asking Xiao Wuda again. What do you mean? Xiao Wuda was taken aback and immediately asked, Are you saying this is not the home of the deceased? Absolutely not. Although the deceased was wearing a big coat, they were wearing a Western-style shirt underneath and had brand-new leather shoes under their feet. How could this outfit possibly be a resident of the courtyard? Yang Denghuan added, and the foreign carriage from last night also indicates that the deceased cannot be a resident here. Xiao Wuda remained silent and had to admit that Yang Denghuan's analysis was reasonable. Most of the residents in the courtyard were foreign charioteers, small vendors, and other street vendors. It was unlikely that there would be figures dressed like the deceased. After stopping for a while, Xiao Wuda asked, "How did you tell that carriage was a foreign carriage?" Yang Deng laughed and said, "Didn't you notice that the rut marks are half a foot wider? The distance between the foreign carriage and the local pack cart is wider, and the difference is not difficult to distinguish." Xiao Wuda said in admiration, "I really admire you. How come I can't see these things?" "You are watching, while I am observing," Yang Denghuan said with a smile behind him. "I see it's all the same. You're just taking advantage of your academic background. What comes out of a higher police academy is different." Xiao Wuda kicked his bike hard and quickly. "Slow down, it's snowy." "It's okay, I can't fall." Chongwen Gate. Chongwen Gate, also known as Hade Gate, together with Xinyang Gate and Xuanwu Gate, is known as the first three gates, and its terrain is particularly important. Chongwenmen Street is an important thoroughfare for entering and exiting the city, with frequent flow of people and goods. Inns, restaurants, teahouses, and foot walks are arranged in rows. After the year of Gingzi, Chongwenmen Street gradually attracted more foreigners due to its proximity to Dongjiamen Lane. Most of these foreigners are businessmen who operate businesses, restaurants, Western clothing stores, washing and dyeing shops, bakeries, driving cars, electrical stores, photo studios, and Western medicine stores that mainly provide services for foreigners. Chongwenmen Street is even more bustling. With foreigners, there are naturally industries that provide services to them, such as foreign carriages. Almost all foreign carriages in Beiping City stop on Chongwenmen Street. Xiao Wuda pedaled his bicycle and walked straight into the Chongwenmen police station. As soon as he entered the yard, he shouted loudly, "Niu Air! Niu Air! Sun Tzu, get out of here! Your grandfather Qiao is here. Here we are. No grandson is looking for me." With the sound of words, a chubby police officer rolled out. The fat police officer gave Xiao Wuda a smile and slapped him on the shoulder with his hand. He happily said, "Why are you so free, kid? Is there any news of private drinking again? Let's go deal with them now." He pulled Xiao Wuda and was about to leave. "Who will handle it? There's no news today." "I'm here to catch someone," Xiao Wuda said, flipping his hand to get rid of Niu Air's hand. Chongwenmen is close to the tax gate, so the Chongwenmen police station also has the responsibility of investigating tax evasion and evasion. Xiao Wuda once gave Niu Air several clues about private wine, which made Niu Air ruthlessly make a few gains, so this time Niu Air thought that Xiao Wuda had sent him clues. Upon hearing this, Niu Air's interest immediately faded. He lifted his belt in his hand and casually asked, "Catching people? Who are you catching?" "If I had to say that catching people is not as fast as catching alcohol." "Don't talk nonsense, let's catch a foreign horse coachman." With that, Xiao Wuda explained to Niu Air the coachman's characteristics inferred by Yang Denghuan. Isn't he Lao San? Let's go, I'll take you over." Niu Air's eyes lit up as he listened. "Do you know?" Xiao Wuda was also very happy to hear it. "I know. This kid has a bad temper. He fought a few times and was caught by our police station once, so I know him." Niu Air spoke as he pushed his bike. "What case?" Niu Air asked after leaving the door. "Murder." "Is he the murderer?" "Undoubtedly." Niu Air became happy again and excitedly said, "All right. If we catch this, the prize money will also be considerable. Why don't I call the two of you again? Why call so many people?" Nyo Air reacted and said repeatedly, right, right. It's not easy to divide the money among too many people. Let's hurry up. Nyo Air and Yang Denghuan left the police station and walked eastward until they reached the entrance of a commercial shop. They stopped at a distance and Nyo Air pointed to a carriage, saying, "Do you see it? Ping News 689, this is this kid's carriage. Ping is Beiping, and livestock are animal power. In order to distinguish them from human labor, 689 is naturally the number." Yang Denghuan didn't look at the carriage, but instead looked up at the sign of the Bordeaux wine shop at the entrance of the shop. His eyebrows furrowed slightly before he stretched out. Xiao Wuda's reasoning is not good, but he is skilled in catching people. He glanced at Nyo Air at Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, and the two of them flanked each other. Yang Denghuan quickly followed suit. A strong man sat dozing on the carriage, completely unaware of the impending danger. Nyo Air grabbed the strong man's arm from the side and shouted, "He Lao San. There's something up." The strong man He Lao San was startled and instinctively pushed, jumped off the carriage, ran away, and indeed had a slight limp in his left foot. Although Nyo Air was obese, he reacted quickly. He placed his right hand on He Lao San's shoulder and pulled back forcefully. He Lao San was agile and leaned forward, clasping Nyo Air's right hand with both hands and exerting force on his waist and hips. Nyo Air was carried over like a pocket, and with a scream, he fell heavily to the ground. He Lao San fell over Nyo Air and was about to run again when he suddenly hit a hard object behind his head, causing his body to stiffen. "Run. See if you're fast or if I'm fast with my gun," Xiao Wuda said coldly, holding the box cannon against the back of He Lao San's head. Nyo Air got up cursing and kicked between He Lao San's waist and hips. "Damn it. How dare you give your father a virtue and a restraint? Believe it or not, I'll pick out your tendons when I get into the fence." He Lao San stood with a box cannon behind his head, afraid to fight back, but his eyes were not afraid at all, staring at Nyo Air. Nyo Air was even more angry, kicking and greeting He Lao San. "Stop beating me. Cuff me up and be careful. I didn't expect this guy to be a trainee." Yang Denghuan and Nyo Air helped each other handcuff He Lao San and led Nyo Air onto the carriage. Xiao Wuda also got onto the carriage and said to Nyo Air, "Second brother, let's take the person back first, and the bicycle will trouble you." After shaking the reins, he urged the carriage. "Don't forget me. There must be me in the report." Nyo Air shouted loudly from behind, looking quite anxious. 5 Doubts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Beiping Police Station. Drive. Xiao Wuda shook the reins vigorously and the carriage headed straight towards the gate. The police on guard quickly stepped forward to stop it. Xiao Wuda proudly shouted, "I don't know you anymore. There's a criminal on the carriage, why don't you report it quickly?" At this moment, the gatekeeper also recognized Xiao Wuda, one placed a barrier, and the other quickly ran in to report the news. When Xiao Wuda's carriage stopped in the courtyard, more than a dozen detectives ran out of the office. Qian Rufa stood first, still holding the badge in his hand. It seemed that Director Shen Yan had not returned. "What's the situation? Isn't it just for you to survey the scene? Why is there so much noise?" Qian Rufa frowned and asked when he saw Xiao Wuda driving back such a large foreign carriage. "The killer has been caught," Xiao Wuda said excitedly. "Did you catch the killer? So fast?" Qian Rufa was stunned and widened his eyes. "That's too fast, isn't it? But after going out for 2 hours, we caught the culprit." Xiao Wuda, while letting other investigators take He Lao San into the criminal training room, proudly explained how Yang Denghuan was reasoning, how he led himself to Chongwen Gate, and how he caught people. At the end of the lecture, Xiao Wuda laughed heartily and said, "I guess this grandson is still investigating the carriage drivers around the Tianxiao area in Qinhuai. He never imagined that the culprit was actually a foreign horse carriage driver." He must have been on the iron plate this time. The Qin Huaigang mentioned by Qiao Wuda is the head of the Qin Department and the Investigation Department of the Inner Second Bureau. The more money is distributed, the more surprised it becomes. His gaze couldn't help but sweep towards Yang Denghuan before he said for a while, "Sure. How many days have you been with us? This has solved such a big case. If it takes a little longer, wouldn't everyone have to make room for you?" Yang Denghuan quickly said, "The case is not yet solved. We don't know who the deceased was, let alone why the killer wanted to kill the deceased, or why the deceased had to follow the coachman to the courtyard. This is already broken. The culprit has been caught, and all of this can be asked from his mouth. With a whip, I don't believe he won't say it. If he really doesn't say it, then we'll have another whip." Qiao Wuda said nonchalantly. Time was tight, and there was no time to investigate who exactly owned that room, Yang Denghuan said again. "Hi. There's no need to ask. It's not the victims, it must be the killers," Qiao Wuda smiled. "Absolutely not," Yang Denghuan said firmly. Qian Rufa nodded and said, "Yang Denghuan is right. No one would kill someone in their own house. It's like nothing." In the blink of an eye, they went to the car again. This case is not that simple. The skinny monkey led his men to escort He Lao San into the criminal training room, then turned around and ran back to ask Qian Rufa, "Boss, when will the trial be held? This is the first time we have solved the case so quickly in our bureau, and the prize money is probably indispensable. Everyone will have a share then." Yang Denghuan didn't care when he heard it, but Qiao Wuda rolled his eyes in displeasure and thought to himself, "Who didn't go just now? Now that the case has been solved, he wants to get a share of the pie." Qian Rufa's eyes turned and he patted Yang Denghuan's shoulder hard, saying, "Xiao Yang was right earlier. This case cannot be solved, there are still many doubts inside." Qiao Wuda rolled his eyes silently and glanced at Qian Rufa, cursing shamelessly in his heart. Lao Qiao and Xiao Yang have worked hard. They are interrogating the prisoner at home and trying to get their confession as soon as possible. I will take a few people to the landlord to inquire about the situation. See if we can find the identity of the deceased, and it will be easier to write a case report then." Qian Rufa said loudly. The deceased was a staff member of a company near Chongwenmen, and the position should not be considered high. It is likely to be a salesperson or typist. If I guess correctly, it is very likely that the deceased was an employee of a Bordeaux wine firm, Yang Denghuan suddenly said. A few people were stunned after listening, and Qian asked in confusion, "How do you know all this?" "Just now during the on-site investigation, I found that the deceased's coat was covered in a Western-style shirt, which is likely a staff member of a foreign company, and many foreign companies are located near Chongwen Gate. Although the deceased's cuffs are clean, there are some damages. I observed that it was due to long-term desk work. Therefore, I concluded that he should not have held a high position and is likely a typist. As for the Bordeaux Wine Company, we caught He Lao San there today." Yang Denghuan smiled and said. "Why did you think the deceased was working there when you arrested He Lao San at the Bordeaux wine firm?" Qian Rufa asked in confusion. "Intuition." Qian Rufa was speechless and pursed his lips, saying, "Okay, intuition. However, you can also investigate the identity of the deceased through the Hongqing leather shoes store. As far as I know, the service provided by the Hongqing leather shoes store is good, and they have registered all customer information. The leather shoes under the feet of the deceased have the HS logo, which is produced by the Hongqing leather shoes store and is a new pair of shoes. It is probably not difficult to identify the identity of the deceased." Qian Rufa glanced at Yang Denghuan, waved his big hand, and left with the detective team. After taking a few steps, Qian Rufa suddenly turned back and said to Yang Denghuan, "If everything goes according to your reasoning, you are the team leader." 2 hours later. Yang Denghuan had just finished the braised pork that Qiao Wuda had bought, and Qian Rufa and his group returned happily and entered the office. As soon as he saw Yang Denghuan, Qian Rufa gave him a thumbs up and looked for the book garden www.zhaozhuiyuan.com. Amazing. Everything is as you see. There's nothing wrong with guessing. Yang Denghuan ignored Qian Rufa's praise and put down the braised bowl, asking, "Who owns that house?" This is the issue that Yang Denghuan is most concerned about. From the moment he arrived at the scene, Yang Denghuan felt that this case was extraordinary and did not seem like a typical criminal case. The motive for murder is nothing more than emotions, wealth, and hatred. From the appearance alone, two people are vastly different and belong to two types of people that cannot be crossed in a lifetime. Emotions and hatred can be basically ruled out. Besides, the most likely one is wealth. But Yang Denghuan also checked and found that the deceased had a considerable amount of property, so the reason for killing someone out of greed can also be ruled out. So what is the motive behind the killer's murder? Secondly, from the beginning, Yang Denghuan felt that the scene was very strange. This room could not have belonged to the deceased, but it could not have belonged to the killer either. No one would have killed someone in their own home and acted as if nothing had happened. Originally, Yang Denghuan thought that these answers would follow Qiao Wuda's interrogation of He Lao San and uncover the mystery, but to Yang Denghuan's surprise, He Lao San refused to confess in vain, not uttering a word. Qiao Wuda had already broken 2 whips, but still had not received anything. At this point, what is He Lao San still hiding? Who is the owner of that house? Why would the killer choose to kill there? Is it the murderer who brought the deceased over, or the deceased who brought the murderer over? They may seem out of touch, but there seems to be some kind of connection between them. Excluding all possibilities, even if the rest is unbelievable, it is still the truth of the matter. Is it Yang Denghuan thought of a possibility and was suddenly startled? He looked at Qian Rufa with some unease, who was completely unaware of it. 6. This child is quite solid. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The name of the deceased was Yang Xiaobo, a native of Tongshan. He came to Beiping in the 22nd year of the Republic of China and now works as a salesman in a Bordeaux wine firm. It's exactly the same as you guessed. Qian Rufa said to Yang Denghuan jealously. Have you asked the landlord? Who exactly owns that house? Yang Denghuan asked, seemingly not very concerned about who the deceased was. The landlord is a dilapidated banner man named Bai Lianqi, who only owns this small piece of ancestral property and relies on eating tiles to make a living. Therefore, no matter who, as long as they give money, they rent it. Moreover, the income and expenditure accounts are also a confused book. I asked for a while, but I couldn't figure out why. The landlord only remembers that this house has been rented out for 4 or 5 years, and it's unclear whether it was rented out in the 18th or 19th year of the Republic of China. There has been no one living in it, but the rent was sent on time, and there is not a single eldest son. However, I have asked, whether it was the deceased or the murderer, these 2 young men are not tenants, and Bai Lianqi can still distinguish this. Has the tenant left their contact information? Yang Denghuan asked again. I left an address, and we also checked. It should be a fake address, there's no such place. Qian Rufa frowned and continued proudly, but I have already asked Bai Lianqi to publish in the newspaper, saying that the house will be sold soon, and all tenants are required to settle the rent within 3 days. If it expires, maybe we can catch this tenant. Yang Denghuan hesitated and shook his head, saying, I guess we won't be able to catch it. If you can't catch it, you can't catch it. Anyway, the case has already been solved and the victim has been found. As for where the person was killed, is that important? Don't think so much, just wait for the reward. There are so many headless cases in this world that cannot be solved. Why bother so much? At this point, Qian Rufa suddenly remembered something happy and burst into laughter. Everyone was inexplicable. Qian Rufa smiled for a while before saying, just now we passed by the big fence. Oh my goodness, a pack of carts were all confiscated, and the drivers squatted in several rows. You didn't see it, it was so spectacular. After speaking, Qian Rufa burst into laughter. It's not unfair for these kids to mess around and die. If they want to take credit for us, there's no way. Xiao Wuda also smiled and said. What's so happy about? Suddenly, someone spoke outside the door. Everyone turned around and a tall and imposing man wearing a black windbreaker and a gray top hat strode in. Hello, Director. Hello, Director. When everyone saw the tall man come in, they all stood at attention and saluted, especially Qian Rufa, who was different from his usual carefree demeanor. He stood straight and wished his fingers could penetrate into his temples. The person who came is Shen Yan, the director of the Second Investigation Department. Shen Yan greeted everyone with a smile, his eyes flashing over Yang Denghuan without stopping at all. The original owner was just a newly hired police officer with no special skills, let alone showing filial piety to Shen Yan. It's strange for Shen Yan to remember him. What makes me so happy? Saying it makes me happy too, Shen Yan said with a humble smile. Qian Rufa and Xiao Wuda rushed over eagerly, almost speaking at the same time, telling Shen Yan about the case. Both of them wanted to outdo each other, their voices getting louder and louder. The argument made Shen Yan furrow his brows, and he reached out with his hands flat and loudly said, Stop it. Stop it. You two are fighting in the arena to compare your voices. Are you too comfortable now? Can I bear it? One by one, or else. Shen Yan glanced at the two of them and pointed at Qian Rufa, saying, the old money owner said, Old Xiao will add. Qian Rufa proudly glanced at Xiao Wuda and thought to himself that no matter what, he was also the team leader, several levels higher than Xiao Wuda. The director had to give himself face no matter what. Qian Rufa and Xiao Wuda, like comedians in cross-talk, almost explained the process of solving the case one by one. Fortunately, Shen Yan was clever and proficient in criminal investigation, so he probably understood. Unexpectedly, Yang Denghuan, who was about to join the police for 2 months, was the one who made great contributions, and he had such strong reasoning ability. Shen Yan felt like he had found a treasure. The Beiping police station originally only had one investigation department, and the director was this Shen Yan. Everyone knows that there is oil and water in the detective department, so they all want to enter. Today he stuffed one person, tomorrow you stuffed another person, you also stuffed people, I also stuffed people, one go two, more and more people crowded, and in the end, it reached as many as 200 or 300 people. 200 or 300 people per room, this configuration is obviously not suitable, but everyone has a background, so who can be cleaned out? There cannot be too many people, nor can it be disbanded, so the only way is to increase the number of personnel, so the Second Investigation Department has emerged. The establishment of the Second Investigation and Enforcement Bureau resulted in the division of human and financial resources into 2 parts. In Shen Yan's view, this was a division of his own power. Therefore, in a fit of anger, he deliberately requested to serve as the director of the Second Investigation and Enforcement Bureau, while freeing up the director of the First Investigation and Enforcement Bureau. The police station knows that Shen Yan has strong abilities and is a skilled criminal investigator. His actions are undoubtedly causing trouble for Director Eugene. Originally, Shen Yan thought that Eugene had come to appease him, so he borrowed the steps and went down. Who knew that Eugene and this scumbag were also a tough issue? Just as Shen Yan brought it up himself, the donkey suddenly agreed and quickly promoted an inspector named Zhong Jinsheng from the inspection office to serve as a director. As Zhong Jinsheng suddenly rose to a high position, he naturally expressed gratitude to Eugene and Ma Shou. He has repeatedly publicly stated in the bureau that he is Eugene and his henchman, with only Eugene and Ma Shou showing respect. But Shen Yan was not so happy anymore. After hearing Zhong Jinsheng's words, he was so angry that he cursed his mother and said more than 10 shameless words in a row. The investigation punished the family, and the power was also divided among the families. One is responsible for major cases, and the other is responsible for general cases. What is a general case? It's nothing more than petty theft, fighting, and other miscellaneous cases. These cases have no merit, and it is not beneficial to seek help from Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. They only have the advantage of running errands and enduring hardships, and there is almost no difference between solving and not solving them, which is why the detective team in Shuyuan number 2 is so lax. Taking this case as an example, if it weren't for one department cooperating with the Special Affairs Office in Beiping District to handle a major case, it's probably not even the second department's turn to investigate this murder case. Now a skilled detective has emerged from two places, and with the help of clues, the real culprit can be determined. Shen Yan was overjoyed and felt that he had the ability to fight with one place. You should know that there are quite a few fools in the police station now, and there are more people who eat, but only talented people. That's pitiful. Most of them are corpses who live a simple life and do not engage in serious matters. Now that I have Yang Denghuan, it greatly increases the solving rate. If a case that cannot be solved is solved by oneself in two places, can two places replace the position of one place in the future? Shen Yan couldn't help but fantasize. Your name is Yang Denghuan? Shen Yan asked with a pleasant expression, smiling. Yes. Director of the report, subordinate Yang Denghuan, police officers from the third group of the first team of the second investigation department. Yang Denghuan stood at attention and reported seriously. Okay. Shen Yan smiled and said several times, patting Yang Denghuan's shoulder. I heard you graduated from Beiping Higher Police Academy and were assigned to our bureau. Director of the report, I am a graduate of the 4th cohort of Beiping Higher Police Academy. I was assigned to work in October this year, Yang Denghuan said loudly. Don't be too shy. Teacher Jiang, who teaches at your school, and Teacher Wei, who teaches and tracks, both have a good relationship with me. Moreover, I have also taught at your school, so I can be considered half of your teacher. Hello Teacher Shen. Yang Denghuan immediately stood at attention and shouted loudly, while also bowing. Shen Yan nodded with a smile and said, not bad, this child is quite solid. 7. Celebrate merit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The progress of the case was not very smooth. Although the culprit was quickly caught, He Laosan's silence prevented the case from proceeding further. The biggest doubt at present is the house. Who rented this room and why did He Laosan kill Yang Xiaobo in this room? What is his motive for committing the crime? These things came to a halt due to He Laosan's refusal to speak, and time passed quickly, as it was already time to finish work. Although the follow-up work was not smooth, Qian Rufa's mood remained high. Since the person has already entered the police station, then there is no fear that he will not confess. If we don't recruit today, isn't there still tomorrow? What is it to break two whips? Use hot chopsticks for this kid tomorrow. Isn't there a saying that goes, human heart is like iron, false is like iron, official law is like a furnace, true is like a furnace. After seeing so many, the brave man finally confessed obediently. At most, it's just a little more suffering. After giving orders to temporarily detain He Laosan, Qian Rufa excitedly said to everyone, "Tonight I'll treat you, let's go drink." There was a burst of cheers in the office. "Captain, let's forget about it. We can afford braised soup ourselves," said Li Zhaohui, the deputy skinny monkey, teasing. "Braised eggs, let's make tea circles and drink flower wine at the Yinxiang Pavilion." "I'll treat you." Qian Rufa exclaimed loudly. Qian Rufa not only invited wine, but also flower wine, and now the cheers became even more enthusiastic. Surprisingly, someone applauded. "Come on, our bonuses are all in vain," Xiao Wuda leaned over and sighed. Yang Denghuan listened but smiled calmly. At this point, he has a different understanding from Xiao Wuda. His past work experience has taught him a lesson. No matter when, don't argue for credit with your boss. One thing is that you can't get it, but it's easy to wear small shoes. Even if one tries hard and uses connections to gain credit, life will not be easy in the future. After all, county officials are not as good as current officials. Young Denghuan, let's go together tonight. After all, you have put in a lot of effort in this case and provided many reasoning conditions, making the case solved faster. Qian Rufa looked at Yang Denghuan with a playful expression. Captain, you're too polite. I didn't have much credit for it, it was all led by Captain Qiao. Besides, without your and the guidance of all the masters, even if I knew some reasoning, it would be just talk on paper and not practical. Yang Denghuan's expression was respectful and his tone was very sincere, as if hearing it was true. Good kid, come with me and work hard in the future. I won't lose you. Tonight, let Suishi offer you 2 more glasses of wine. If you like it, don't leave. The silver guy with the head tied will give it to you. Qian Rufa's face was full of flesh and blood, showing a bright smile, looking even more ferocious. Amidst laughter, everyone left the office and looked at the backs of these people. Yang Denghuan silently thought to himself, this Nima is the future team building. This must go, otherwise how can we establish good relationships with colleagues? But Yang Denghuan is a bit strange. How could there be a team-building team that doesn't hire a leader? Why not invite Shen Yan if the money is sent out? In no time, the question was solved. Qian stumbled into the director's office and within a few minutes, ran out with a big bag in his hand. Yang Denghuan saw Qian Rufa carrying a large bag and quickly stepped forward to take it. Qian Rufa's face was full of flesh and a smile appeared on his face, indicating that he was quite pleased with Yang Denghuan's attention. Damn it, these dogs are drinking flower wine and jumping faster than anyone else. You still have good eyesight, stronger than these grandsons. Tomorrow I'll transfer you to a group. Qian Rufa patted Yang Denghuan's shoulder and said. One group is led by Qian Rufa himself, obviously showing goodwill to Yang Denghuan. Just thinking about it, can a person who is highly regarded by the director not be reused? Thank you for your cultivation, team leader. I will definitely fulfill my responsibilities and work hard. Yang Denghuan stood at attention and said. In private, we are all brothers, so there's no need to be so reserved. Qian Ru smiled and patted Yang Denghuan's shoulder. Captain, what's inside here? Yang Denghuan picked up the bag and casually asked. The director said he won't go, let's have fun. These are 2 cigarettes and 2 bottles of wine given by the director, which he said were the right portion for the guys. Qian Ru smiled and said. Qian Rufa and Yang Denghuan left the office one by one, and Qian Rufa happily said, your kid has shown a big face this time. The forensic department even called to accuse you just now. Yang Denghuan was taken aback for a moment and asked in confusion, report it to me. What do you report to me? Saying that you didn't even confirm the time of death of the deceased, and all kinds of tests hadn't started yet, you solved the case. Isn't that a slap in their face? You're asking our director if the forensic report is still needed. Qian Rufa burst out laughing again. Yang Denghuan also smiled. It seems that this case will be known to the fullest in just 2 days. Even if one does not strive for credit, the credit cannot escape. Seeing Yang Denghuan happy, Qian Rufa became even happier and even wrapped his arm around Yang Denghuan's shoulder. The 2 of them walked out of the police station together. How are we going? Yang Denghuan asked. Of course it's by car. Cheng, I'll go and get 2 foreign cars, Yang Denghuan said. What kind of foreign car do you want? We have 4 wheels. Qian Rufa said proudly. Do we still have a car in our bureau? Yang Denghuan was puzzled. You don't understand that anymore. Do you remember a few days ago when we solved a kidnapping case? The victim was the manager of Fuwang coal mine, and this group of field mice had plenty of money. I asked them to send a car to pick us up. That's not it, here it is. Qian Rufa pointed to a car coming from afar and smiled. Yang Denghuan secretly thought to himself that he still needs to hurry up and take office. Whether doing good or doing bad, you need to have a place first. Only with a position can one have strength. I don't lack money, what I lack is status. You can use your ability to reason and solve cases as a strong point, step by step, to get promoted, so that you can do more things. After breaking the tea barrier, I naturally drank flower wine as well. Qian Rufa was extremely attracted to Yang Denghuan, and I believe every member of the detective team could see it. Zhaozuiyuan.com. Although Yang Denghuan spoke very politely, upon careful consideration, he did not let go of a single word. Several cunning detectives looked at Yang Denghuan with a hint of strangeness in their eyes. Being able to solve cases belongs to having good business skills. Are there still few people with the ability now? The key is that Yang Denghuan can speak. Every sentence is what Qian Rufa likes to hear, but every sentence is not practical. This is the skill. With this ability, can't you get along well in a mixed police station? With this idea in mind, at first it was just polite, but later more and more people took the initiative to clink glasses with Yang Denghuan, and Yang Denghuan refused to accept anyone, like a fish in water. Yang Denghuan ultimately politely declined Qian Rufa's offer to stay overnight. At least he still had this bottom line. Farewell to the busy detective team. Yang Denghuan stumbled out of the Yin Xiang pavilion. Turning around the alley, Yang Denghuan regained consciousness from his drunken eyes and walked back to his home in Xianyuku. It was almost 10 o'clock by now. Yang Denghuan's home is in Xianyuku, Qianmen Street, a 2-story small building on the west side of the second floor. Although the house has a small area of only 30 square meters, it is one of the few suites, and what's even more rare is that it has a complete kitchen and bathroom, almost considered a modern room. Yang Denghuan was very satisfied with the house and thanked the original owner for leaving him such a good place to live, even though it was rented. Yang Denghuan couldn't imagine how to live without a bathroom. After going upstairs, opening the door and pushing it in, Yang Denghuan casually placed the keychain on the door and pressed the light switch. As the room lights turned on, Yang Denghuan's shoe removal froze and her pupils suddenly shrank. A middle-aged man with a split hair, dressed in a black Zhongshan suit, and a gentle expression, was lying diagonally on his usual lounge chair, smiling and looking at him. 8. Special Operations Team of the Special Operations Office in Beiping. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What kind of person are you? Yang Denghuan instinctively touched her waist, but unfortunately, there was nothing. I am currently in my internship period, and although the director, team leader, and team leader are all very optimistic about me, they cannot give me a gun in advance. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am the leader of the Beiping Special Action Team of the Secret Service, and my name is Chao Youguang. The middle-aged man still had a gentle expression on his face and said with a smile. Secret Service. Yang Denghuan's expression stiffened. Although his history is not very good, the Secret Service is still known as the predecessor of the Military Statistics Bureau. As soon as Yang Denghuan thought of the Military Statistics Bureau, he immediately thought of a series of phrases such as, full of evil, infamous, executioner, etc. He couldn't help but look at the middle-aged man Chao Youguang in surprise and with a hint of fear. Chao Youguang seemed very satisfied with Yang Denghuan's reaction and nodded with a smile, saying, "What's wrong? Isn't it like that? Is my face too gentle and angry?" Yang Denghuan shook his head indifferently and asked, "How do you know about our family?" Yang Denghuan, 21 years old, from Beiping, was raised by his grandfather after his parents passed away at a young age. His grandfather passed away last year. In the 22nd year of the Republic of China, he was admitted to Beiping Higher Police School with excellent grades, and his grades were excellent during his time at school. He ranked among the top in criminal investigation, technology, shooting, combat, physical fitness, and other subjects. After graduating in September this year, he was assigned to the Beiping Police Station and joined in October. He is now serving as a probationary police officer in the first team of the 2nd Investigation Department of the police station. Who are you? How did you investigate me? When did you start investigating me? Yang Denghuan's expression was somewhat flustered. From the moment you caught He Lao-san, you entered my sight, Chao Youguang said lightly. Impossible. It's only been half a day, can you investigate so clearly? Yang Denghuan involuntarily took a step back and said. Just you. Chao Youguang said disdainfully, investigating you, 1 hour is enough. The key is also your parents, grandparents, all relatives, and all interpersonal relationships. Chao Youguang saw Yang Denghuan's almost dementia expression and smiled, saying, however, after half a day, everything has finally been completed. What are you investigating me for? Yang Denghuan looked a bit intimidated and stuttered as she spoke. Since you are so good at reasoning, why not infer who I am and why I came to find you? Chao Youguang's eyes swept over Yang Denghuan like a blade. You are. Yang Denghuan said only 2 words before suddenly stopping. There's no connection, even if you're wrong, it's okay. I'm afraid I'll guess everything right, Yang Denghuan timidly glanced at Chao Youguang and said. Let's talk about it, Chao Youguang said calmly. You are the tenant of the house in Liutiao Hutong, and also the boss of He Lao-san. He Lao-san took Yang Xiaobo to Liutiao Hutong's courtyard under your command, forcing him to drink poisoned wine. Yang Denghuan said slowly. Chao Youguang was taken aback for a moment, then instinctively grabbed onto the armrests of the recliner, sat up straight, and asked in a deep voice, how did you know? Of course it's reasoning. Although Yang Denghuan's tone was firm, his expression showed a hint of timidity. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva, Yang Denghuan pointed to the water glass on the table and asked, can I have a sip of water? Chao Youguang pouted at the teacup and gestured for Yang Denghuan to drink water. Gudong, Yang Denghuan drank water in large gulps and finished a big cup before finally putting down the cup with a lingering desire. From the beginning, I thought this case was unusual. Not to mention anything else, let's just talk about this poison. It's not common arsenic, but scopolamine. This is Western medicine, and it's strictly controlled. How could a foreign horse puller easily get it? Furthermore, the motive behind the homicide case is nothing more than 3 types. Wealth, love, and hatred. However, this case is obviously not one of them. Setting aside these 3 motives, the only one left is. Yang Denghuan stared at Chao Youguang and said, being ordered to kill. This is enough to show that He Lao-san is employed by a certain organization. Although I didn't know He Lao-san was employed by that organization at the time, I knew He Lao-san had served in the army. Upon hearing this, Chao Youguang's surprised expression disappeared from his face. He adjusted his sitting posture to make himself more comfortable and smiled, asking, have you served in the military? Where did you see this from? When capturing He Lao-san, I found that he had a sharp sword tattoo on his arm, which I happened to have seen on some of his former military friends' arms. Yang Denghuan also pulled up a chair and sat down. You don't seem too scared anymore, Chao Youguang smiled slightly. Am I afraid it will be useful? Yang Denghuan said with a bitter smile. It seems like it's not very useful. We won't let each other go out of fear unless this person is useful to us. Chao Youguang's face suddenly cleared up, and he sat up straight and said, speak up. Your reasoning is almost entirely correct. This makes me very impressed. You are a useful person to us. Yang Xiaobo was the one I ordered He Lao-san to kill, and this is the execution of family law. Implementing family laws. Is Yang Xiaobo also one of your people? Yang Denghuan was slightly stunned. Of course. But he eats from the inside out, defected to the Japanese, and betrayed our intelligence, that's why I asked He Lao-san to enforce the family law. Yang Denghuan suddenly realized that the whole case had come to light. He figured out why Yang Xiaobo would follow He Lao San to the miscellaneous courtyard in Liuqiao Hutong, and why He Lao San could force Yang Xiaobo to swallow poison. It turned out that they were all from the Secret Service. Then He Lao San. Chao Youguang waved his hand to interrupt Yang Denghuan's questioning, and a slight sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth, saying, "Speaking of this matter, I still want to thank you." "Thank you, me. Of course. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, I happened to be sending someone to prison to do something, but there was no suitable reason. This is great. I happened to use this matter to send He Lao San in, so no one would doubt it. What needs to be done in prison?" Yang Denghuan asked subconsciously, and after asking, he felt that it shouldn't be asked like this. He looked at Chao Youguang with some unease. "You're very interesting," Chao Youguang chuckled lightly and leaned back, saying, "Do you know what I'm here for?" "Executing family laws?" Yang Denghuan asked in fear. "What's the law at home?" "You haven't entered yet." Chao Youguang smiled. "Then I can rest assured," Yang Denghuan exaggeratedly caressed his chest. "I want you to join us," Chao Youguang suddenly said. "Me?" Yang Denghuan was taken aback and pointed to his nose. Chao Youguang nodded. "Can you refuse?" Yang Denghuan asked. "You can consider it, but you already know so much, you can't refuse to join, otherwise you will be sunk in the Yongding River," Chao Youguang smiled. "Then why don't you think about it?" Yang Denghuan blurted out, and Chao Youguang smiled silently. "Tomorrow you come to trial He Lao San, he will confess. The motive behind the case is that Yang Xiaobo killed He Lao San's woman due to emotional reasons, and He Lao San killed him. This can be considered a gift from me to you." Chao Youguang stood up and prepared to leave. "I have considered how to notify you." Yang Denghuan asked. "At this time tomorrow, it's still this place," Chao Yu said with concern as he walked out. "Change the lock when you have time, it's so easy to open." "Is it useful?" Yang Denghuan pursed his lips. "I don't think so." Chao Youguang smiled and walked out the door. 9. Report. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Through the curtains, Yang Denghuan watched as Chao Youguang walked away, feeling somewhat surprised. He actually came here alone. Is it surprising that the leader of the Beiping Special Sexual Action Team of the Tang Tang Special Service Office met with him without even bringing a subordinate? Things are abnormal, this. Some kind of demon. Although Chao Youguang did not have room for Yang Denghuan to consider, he still had to report to his own organization. Yang Denghuan is also organized. Not bad, Yang Denghuan has another identity besides being a police officer, which is an underground party member of our party. Yang Denghuan believes that this is a good opportunity. If one could enter the Secret Service, it would be of great help to their future work. But according to discipline, we still need to report to our superiors for approval. Yang Denghuan decided to report this matter to his superior Lao Wu tomorrow. In the midst of imagination, Yang Denghuan finally fell asleep. The next morning, Yang Denghuan opened his eyes. He had a good daily routine, and even without an alarm clock, he could wake up on time at 6:30 a.m. every day. There is no way, this is due to his house outside the 5th Ring Road in his previous life. Going to work every day is like rushing for an exam, it has already been exercised out. Light rail, subway, and public transportation are also quite common on the way to work. They have to run like horses every morning to ensure that they check in on time and are not late. It seems like there is no time needed now. There are people fishing in the office every day, and even if they go late, no one asks. After all, there are so many field workers in the team, and if you casually answer a question about field workers, you will be sent away. However, habit is still habit. Every day at 6:30, Yang Denghuan's eyes open on time without any delay. After washing his face with cold water, Yang Denghuan became much more energetic and quickly changed his clothes. Yang Denghuan went out and went downstairs. He doesn't have the habit of cooking, the key is that being alone is not worth firing. So Yang Denghuan eats almost all 3 meals a day outside, but with so many snacks in Beiping City, he can't bear to eat them no matter how he eats them. After going downstairs, Yang Denghuan walked towards the entrance of Xianyuku Hutong without looking askance. The pace was not fast, and his eyes occasionally looked around. After walking for more than 10 meters, Yang Denghuan seemed to remember something he hadn't picked up. Suddenly, he turned around and walked back towards the small building, all the way into the building. Yang Denghuan confirmed that no one was following him before returning from the building and walking towards the alley entrance again. Yang Denghuan has to guard against it. Now that I am being caught by the Secret Service, I need to be even more careful. In just one day, one can fully understand oneself, and the energy of the Secret Service cannot be underestimated. Perhaps there are people from the Secret Service within Detective Division too. From now on, everything must be careful. December in Beiping is undoubtedly the coldest season. The night before yesterday, it snowed all night. Yesterday, despite being trampled on by people, no one cleaned it up. Some areas have already frozen. It was cold and slippery, so it was hard to walk. Yang Denghuan walked out of Xianyuku, detoured by Dengshiku, and drank a bowl of fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean wow gold at a roadside stall. The weather is cold, and apart from occasional strangers carrying bamboo baskets and 1 or 2 radishes and cabbage inside, there are hardly any pedestrians on the road, with only a few dozen meters of distance visible. Despite the cold weather, business at the fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean wow gold stand is still very good. Fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean wow gold tastes good, making nearby residents flocking to it. When it comes to Luodian fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean wow gold at Lading Shiku, the whole city of Beiping is very famous. Some rich businessmen like it and even drive to buy it. After drinking a bowl of fermented sour milk made from ground mung bean wow gold, eating 2 coke rings and a chopsticks of spicy cabbage, and wiping his mouth, Yang Denghuan got up and looked around, then walked to the newsstand across the alley. Let's have a morning newspaper and use it to make pancakes and fruits later. Lao Sun's pancakes and fruits taste good, but the paper is very thin. Yang Denghuan casually handed over a rolled-up change. This is a code language for communication. The vendor calmly took the money in his hand, with a slight hint of surprise in his eyes. Yang Denghuan's hand strength slightly increased as he handed it over. The vendor remained expressionless and handed over a morning newspaper. Yang Denghuan took it and turned around, walking towards the front door. In the money handed over by Yang Denghuan, there was a note with the words, 53, KF on it. This is an application to the superior, and there is really no way for him to do so. Because besides that, Yang Denghuan has no other contact information with his superiors, and there are no special agreements between them, let alone secret codes. Nevertheless, Yang Denghuan still tried to use hidden language as much as possible. The meaning of 53 refers to the office location of the Secret Service at the beginning of its establishment, number 53 GE Lane. The meaning of KF is the first pinyin of can. The meaning of connecting is whether one can join the Secret Service. Yang Denghuan believes in this small deception, which can be understood by the organization. After all, they have been fighting against each other for so many years. Before this, Yang Denghuan was just a progressive student. Although he was assigned to the police station, he was just a novice police officer at the moment and could not play a crucial role for a while. It is also impossible for the organization to assign traffic officers and liaison officers specifically for him. The newsstand owner is Yang Denghuan's only channel of communication with the organization, and Yang Denghuan believes that the newsstand owner will never be responsible for just one person. Hopefully, he can pass on the news in a timely manner. The reason for using hidden language is not that Yang Denghuan doesn't believe the newsstand owner, but that at this moment, Yang Denghuan doesn't believe anyone except himself. Yang Denghuan is very aware of the cruelty of underground work, and once exposed, the results can be imagined. According to the principle of keeping secrets, it is natural that the fewer people know, the safer. Taking the newspaper and walking all the way, Yang Denghuan bought 2 pancake fruits in front of a pancake fruit stall at the entrance of the police station, wrapped them in newspaper, and carried them into the police station. There are 5 battalions under Detective Division 2, looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. The 1st to 4th teams and the mobile team have about 130 people, most of whom are field workers. There are only 1 or 20 people who can stay in the office. These people are all human spirits, with empty eyelashes. Yang Denghuan is different from them. The reason why he was able to stay in the office is entirely due to his probationary status. Entering the office, most people were still idle, with only a team of people busy. When Qiao Wuda saw Yang Denghuan enter the door, his face was not very good looking. He thought he was good to Yang Denghuan, but Yang Denghuan's performance disappointed him too much and he didn't stand with him. If Yang Denghuan had a more resolute attitude, Qian Rufa would not dare to look so ugly. But judging from Yang Denghuan's appearance, he is also a flatterer. Yang Denghuan, however, was very polite and leaned over to hand the pancake fruit to Qiao Wuda. What? Qiao Wuda rolled his eyelids. Pancake fruit, it's at the entrance of our bureau, Yang Deng laughed happily. Did you spend money? Qiao Wuda asked with a calm face. Look at what you're saying, can we not spend money? Besides, they don't know me either. I've only been here for a few days now. Yang Denghuan, of course, knew the reason why Qiao Wuda was unhappy, and was not angry at his indifferent attitude. He still handed over the pancake and fruit. Qiao Wuda is also kind and generous. He sighs and takes pancakes and fruits. Half complaining and half reminding, he says, you are too talkative and bullied. What makes people feel good when you get the credit? I can tell you that I heard that you are going to promote some policemen from your group of school policemen recently. You have to fuck dim sum. If you have this credit, you may have a chance. Promote a police officer. Yang Denghuan was momentarily taken aback, then thought to himself that he must not miss this opportunity. 10 treasures. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yang Denghuan did nothing all morning, just flipping through the map of Beiping. He wants to find a place, after all, 100 years later, and the current location still feels a bit surprised. The place he is looking for is located in the DC district, and Yang Denghuan doesn't remember the specific name of the alley. The reason for finding this alley is due to a later report. In the report, several decades later, on a certain day, during the renovation of a shantytown in the DC district, construction workers excavated many gold ingots, silver ingots, and jewelry in a large courtyard. According to expert speculation, the treasure has a long history and its owner is unknown. No one should know now, what a pity the treasure is buried underground. Since you're wearing it yourself, let them see the light again, maybe they'll come in handy someday. Yang Denghuan only remembers the report saying that the treasure was hidden in the east wing of a large courtyard, and he couldn't remember the name of the alley clearly. However, he remembered that there seemed to be a big elm tree at the entrance of the alley, as if it was related to a certain ancient high-ranking official. In addition, there is a very famous chain of hamburger and fried chicken restaurants in the alley entrance. According to nomenclature, the origin of place names can be divided into 2 types. One for commemoration, and the other for prominent features. Since there are elm trees at the entrance of the alley, the name of this alley is likely to be called Yushu Hutong or Yuqian Hutong. Originally, Yang Denghuan thought that with this inference, this alley should not be difficult to find. Only when he confidently flipped through the map did he realize that he was too naive and underestimated the situation in Beiping City. There are many alleys in Beiping City, with more alleys during the Republic of China period. Having multiple hutongs is not a problem, just look for them slowly. The key is chaotic management, and the naming of hutongs is very casual. Many hutongs have duplicate names, and there are even many hutongs that do not even have names. It seems that the person who was responsible for naming the alley was exactly the same as Yang Denghuan. If there is an elm tree in the alley, or even no elm tree, he would dare to call it Elm Alley or Yuqian Alley. In less than 20 minutes, just in the DC area, Yang Denghuan found more than a dozen Yushu Hutong, Yuqian Hutong, Daiyushu Hutong, Xiaoyushu Hutong, Laoyushu Hutong, and Qianqian Hutong. As for another clue, that chain of hamburger and fried chicken restaurants is even more nonsense. It's unclear whether the hamburger headquarters is open at this time. Yang Denghuan suddenly felt like he was a sophomore in middle school, with a feeling of playing with carving boats and seeking swords. Oh my goodness! More than 10 alleys, Yang Denghuan covered his head. Why do people in Beiping like to plant elm trees so much? But when you see the treasure in your hand, you can't do without it. Although the current known conditions are limited, you have to slowly reason and find this alley to dig out the treasure that has been dormant for many years. Yang Denghuan decided to use the elimination method to eliminate those impossible, and the last one left is the answer. However, currently I have too little information at hand, and relying solely on a map of Beiping is far from enough. I still need to gather some geographical information. Yang Denghuan remembers reading a book called Bold 4 and 9 Cities Travel Guide in his later life, which seemed to have been published and distributed around 1935. The title of the book that left the deepest impression on him was that of Mr. Zhang Henshui, and it should be quite reliable. It shouldn't be difficult to buy this book now. After work, go around the bookstore and see if you can buy one. Yang Denghuan closed the map and rubbed his eyes before faintly hearing screams coming from the inquiry room. What's the situation? Why are you crying and howling? Yang Denghuan frowned and asked. You just heard me. It's been 3 different groups of people since we last met. I've never seen someone with such tough teeth before. This kid just doesn't know how to handle it, said a tall, skinny detective from the same team. Yang Denghuan has an impression of him. Yesterday, he was quite active in the team-building activity. He was holding 2 girls and shouting loudly, "I will cover the expenses." It seems that his name is Qin Jichao and he is a group of detectives. This is mainly a common criminal case, which is the use of conventional punishment. At most, a whip can be whipped, and if it's not just a double blow to the chest, I dare not really damage it. Otherwise, the Cannon Bureau Hutong won't accept it, said another chubby detective with a bad nose. Yang Denghuan also has an impression of this guy, it seems to be called Wang Dazue. It's probably a nickname, how could a good family name him? Last night, this guy didn't ask for a girl, but he basically ate all the hard dishes on the table, such as 4 joy meatballs and plum cabbage with pork. A typical foodie, this one is also a group. Qin Jichao approached Yang Denghuan and said mysteriously, "Did I buy you pancakes and fruits this morning?" The head mentioned by Qin Jichao is naturally Qiao Wuda, the leader of the 3 groups. How do you know? Yang Denghuan asked instead of answering. I see. Who am I? I am the famous ear god in our place. Qin Jichao said, half lying on Yang Denghuan's table. I also saw that the pancake fruit is so big, and the fruit inside is so long. Wang Dazue heard about it and immediately felt refreshed, reaching out to gesture and gesture. I just know how to eat. When I heard that eating is more energetic than anything else, Qin Jichao sneered at Wang Dazue. You still say that I can't walk when I see the girls. Look at the way you looked at Suishi yesterday. Are you trying to fill the captain's gap? Wang said without hesitation. Qin Jichao was startled and quickly glanced around. Qian Rufa was not in the office, so he breathed a sigh of relief and gently kicked Wang Da's mouth, muttering, "What are you, little boy Hu Qin?" Yang Denghuan was very annoyed, but he pretended to be very happy and burst out laughing. Qin Jichao then remembered what he wanted to do with him and said mysteriously, you're going to the first group. I just saw our team leader transfer your information to the first group with the help of the internal staff member Hua Jia, and we'll be partners from now on. So fast. It seems that if money were to be distributed, I would have to contribute to him. Unfortunately, that set of pancakes had fruit, Wang said with some regret. There was a sound of footsteps, and curses came from outside the door. Qian Rufa and Li Jiaohui strode into the office, and with a loud bang, Qian Rufa slammed his wide belt onto the table, panting heavily. Li Jiaohui unbuttoned several buttons on his police uniform shirt and also unbuttoned a few buttons on his inner shirt. He gasped for breath and grabbed the large teapot, drinking water gurgling. Damn it. You three go. Let's give him a chariot battle. I don't believe this kid won't speak up. Qian Rufa pointed at Yang Denghuan and said. Qin Jichao and Wang agreed, pretended to roll up their sleeves, cursed profusely, and strode out of the office. Yang Denghuan saw that Xiao Wuda's face was very ugly. He held a teacup heavily on the table and looked out the window. Qian Rufa's face suddenly turned black. He wanted to speak, but was stopped by Li Jiaohui, a skinny monkey, who gave him a wink.